Triple Shot Mindset. So here's my thing. I love energetic healing. Have you ever been to an energetic healing session?
No. I wish, though.
Okay. Let me BID, break it down. In an energetic healing session, the healer is working on your energetic body. So they may never touch you. They may never put a hand on you. They're just manipulating like your aura, your chakras. They can often perceive when there's an imbalance, and just with hand gestures or Reiki. Have you heard of Reiki?
Yeah.
Okay. So they can like hover above your body and channel the source energy and send it. So like a battery, you're getting filled up. It's a beautiful thing. And I have had the honor and privilege of facilitating some of these energetic healing sessions before on friends and family and referrals. And I've noticed this phenomenon, which I mentioned yesterday in conversation casually to you. For the listeners and viewers, I'll explain it. Sometimes you can bring people to this pivotal point in their life. To borrow your word, they have the option to go down two different trajectories.
Right.
One is the path that they've always taken, and one is like this new path. They're standing at the doorway of this opportunity to change their life, to change their habits, their patterns, their beliefs, and just radically shift. And in those healing moments, as sort of an extrasensory who can perceive those energetic fluctuations, I can see that if they just step forward into the trajectory of their choice, they could make a 180-degree turn and be living a new life.
This is scratching me where I itch.
Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Kind of like onion and sour cream chips.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that what you were referencing?
No, I was just referencing my own. May I say something?
Please.
So energy healing. I had a concern for a friend, and I wanted to see if there's an energy healer in the area. So I Googled it. A man comes up in Minnesota, says at the age of 35, he was hit by a car, and that's when he realized his power to energy heal people. And he said, no worries, I don't have to be in the same room, or same state. I can do it remotely. When you say somebody over you does this, can that be done over the internet or the phone?
It can totally be done remotely. I think it's just like when you're receiving a call from a friend, you don't see anything on your phone yet, but you think of them immediately. And then your phone rings, and it's them. Even though you might be separated by 4,000 miles, you still connected somehow. Your energy's connected, and you could feel like such and such is about to call me. And then the call or the text comes in. That time and distance, I think, are irrelevant. They're very third dimensional aspects of our experience. And there are so many more dimensions than the third dimension, which we can tap into even if we can't fully immerse ourselves in because of our physical development and our spiritual development. We can still use those dimensions. And that's what remote healing is, I think.
All right.
So does that answer the question?
So I am smirking because my headset keeps slipping down.
Uh-oh. Do you need to?
No, we're good.
Okay.
I was trying to be cool and have it 45 degrees.
Why do you think it keeps on slipping down?
Lack of hair.
Oh.
I thought it was a rosemary oil. Lubing it up.
I'm not rosemarying it yet. I do it at night and I wash it in the morning.
Yeah, that's very good because it stays all night.
Perfect.
I also don't think the rosemary oil is that oily. Like if you...
It is oily.
Is it?
It's not that oily.
Not like olive oil oily.
No, it doesn't like drip down your face.
It does leave a residue, but it's not as slippy.
You know, the most slippery oil is coconut oil, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't like coconut
But anyway,
oil.
let's get back to the trajectory, the fork in the road.
So here's my thought on this. As someone who has been part of energy healing sessions as the facilitator and been a recipient of energy healing and heard a lot of talk about energy healing, it comes to my mind that 99% of people have an opportunity at some point in their life to walk through the door of a new trajectory. Maybe it's because they see an energy healer. Maybe it's because they do this amazing, some do like ayahuasca medicine. They work with psychedelics. Others go through therapy. Others just have a horrible life event happen where life just B slaps them in the face. So my thought is, we have these things happening to us. We have these pattern interruptions. Why can't we walk through the door? Why do 99% of people get the slap from the universe, ow, or they get that moment of realization, like, this is not working the way I want it to, and I have this opportunity. Why don't they take it? Why do they go back down the path?
This is what I talk about all the time in my head about...
In your head?
In my head.
You talk about it.
Yeah, I talk about it. I talk to myself about it in the shower, when I'm trying to sleep, when I'm driving, is that the universe gives, or God presents a person two choices, right? Live this life. Yeah, it's unknown. Yes, it's different than what you're used to. Yes, you don't know what's going to happen after you take the first step, but they don't have the foresight or the trust in themselves that the next step is going to come after the next step and the next step and the next step. They're going to go back to where they're very comfortable. Even though if it's a shitty life, if it's pain, if it's disappointment, if it's in a relationship that is bad to them, they go down the same route. So
why?
Sure.
Why?
Because I think as human beings, we're programmed to accept certain fates of our life as being, it is what it is. And that's why I don't like the word "it is what it is," because it just says you're powerless against change. So when I go to someone and says, do you want to live a better life? Or do you want to go back to this? And I'll just give you some pills and, just whatever. I want to take the new route. So for those of you who don't know, I had this growth under my armpits, right? And I saw it 3 weeks ago and I was scared because once you Google it, you figure out, oh my God, it could be cancer. It could be this, it could be that. And for 3 weeks, I thought I had something funky going on. And I made it a point to myself that if I go see an energy healer, if this happens to be the C word,
Cancer.
Right, I'm going to go do whatever it takes, even if it's going to be outside of normal.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get to the point that you no longer want to live with something or put up with something, you have to have enough push to push you into the other direction. And I think 99% of the people, and I was one of them, I didn't want to take that 1% that shot at something different. I was just going to do everything that everyone else is doing that's comfortable. So for the past 3 weeks, I've been thinking, okay, if this is a bad thing, am I going to go through the usual therapies? And I thought to myself, I don't want to. Even though it's going to be scary not to, like, oh, you need chemo, you need this, you need that. Thank God I'm not there. But I was thinking, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the same route that everyone else takes and there's only a 40% chance of people surviving it. I want to do something different. Maybe that's the other choice. So for me, that fear has gone away of doing something that's outside my comfort zone. But now that I found out it's a fatty thing and the doctor says you can live with it, I said, no, take it out. Like, why would I want to live with it? Why would I want to just deal with something that I know isn't right? So when I go out with women and I talk to them about taking a chance on going out with someone like me who is self-aware, who is growth-minded, who is all those things that they wish their ex-husbands or ex-boyfriends were, you see that although they want it, they go back to the same thing. They go back to the same comfortable, familiar place, even though it's not good for them. So for healing, the same thing. Like if I go to a doctor or a healer or whatever, and they say, you have to do this to get better, I'm going to come in the car, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to say, well, what if it doesn't pan out the way I hoped? What if it doesn't pan out the way medical establishment told me it's going to? So I'm just going to take the easy route, take my Advil, take my pills out of that orange bottle, and hope I'm going to be a better person out of it. So I think it's fear of the unknown and the familiarity of being somewhere that you just say, oh, well, this is not up to me. God can decide for me. Fate will decide. It is what it is. And I don't buy that anymore.
My 2 cents. everybody's different. So somebody that may have the C disease right now,
Cancer.
to them, chemotherapy is the unknown. And they still do it. They have the courage to do it. If you don't do anything about it, maybe that's being not intelligent. But whether you want to do the energy healing route, maybe you want to do the chemo route, whatever, at least you're doing something. And nobody wants to go through that anyway, because everybody hears the horrible things that could happen, or may not even work. But people have the courage to do it anyway. So I think in general, people are courageous when push comes to shove. But like, for example, you will divorce somebody if the fighting gets so much that you can't stand it anymore. The disrespect is too much. Whatever. But you don't have that same courage 2 years before when things are okay. So I think when one gets to a point that you are faced with a choice, do I go this way or that way? Yeah, like for example, in career, people are comfortable. They're like, why should I change it? I'm used to this routine. But bigger things in life, like relationships, I'm not happy, your happiness, your health, I think those you do muster up the courage when you get to a point that there is no more, you can't go straight, you have to take left or right.
Well, I do agree with you. 62%.
Oh,
Right? Not
more than
just
half.
50. Right.
Yeah.
I think it takes courage to do something that's not familiar. Right? I think if you're pushed, let's say, to have an operation done and you have to do it, or you have to have chemo done and that's the only thing you know, you got to do what you got to do. I'm talking about not just doing what you got to do, but also go above and beyond and do something that is not expected of you to do, or it's not the usual course of action. So when I was faced with a divorce talk, I didn't think there was anything wrong with my marriage. She thought there were some things that could be improved, but we never thought it's going to come to this. And it wasn't fighting that it got to a point that the disrespect got more. We didn't fight. There was no disrespect. It was just friendly and love and good banter, but it wasn't what she wanted in her future, right? So the fact that someone pulls a plug on that, I think takes more courage than putting the plug on something that's toxic. The fact that if you want to do energy healing as your therapy because you don't want to do the other one, I think that takes courage.
It also takes courage for somebody that's a naturopathic person that only does natural healing to say, you know what, I got to do chemo because it's not working. So it could go either way. It's just trying something different than what you're used to or comfortable with to get a different result, hopefully.
Yeah, everyone's different. You're saying that for the individual, depending on what they're programmed to do, pharmaceuticals may be the challenge for them. If they're usually like only chiropractic, only alternative medicine, only holistic healing. And I say chiropractic because it's the first doctor equivalency that I see in my mind, but it could be anything. It could be only osteopathic medicine or whatever. I understand what you're saying. And I also understand that you're saying that to disrupt something that's not inherently bad, you're like choosing before their conflict starts. So you're kind of like slightly ahead on the path. You're not waiting until life forces you to take a path. In this case, your ex-wife. She was thinking, look, I already know that if we go another 5 to 10 years, I will reach that point of toxicity. I want to stop that now and go. So that takes a certain amount of courage for sure, because you're creating the pattern interrupt.
But you got to have the foresight. I think having foresight versus being pushed into something, because as he said, yeah, if it's a toxic relationship, you got to pull the plug because that's the only choice you have left. The other one, you have choices. You got a choice to stay and try to fix it. You can have a choice to stay and ignore it. You have a choice to stay and just accept it. You have a choice to pull the plug, and you choose to pull the plug. For me, when I go out with women and they still choose to go back to the guy who is good looking on the outside, not that I'm bad looking, but they go back to the guy who's good looking, who reminds them of their ex-husband or boyfriend and has the same toxic behavior, and they don't have the foresight to at least put themselves in a position that they've learned a lesson and see what this can unfold and how this other one can unfold. because this is unfamiliar to them, they will choose that one over and over again. And to me, that's just mind-boggling. Like, if you come along and you want to energy heal me, and I have no experience with it whatsoever, but I choose to go that route, I think that's courage. That's changing your trajectory by leaps and bounds that you would never, ever imagine doing. So I'm definitely open to looking at something, its potential, its trajectory, and just take a chance.
I think that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. The women that you're seeing in the dating scene. And I have follow-up questions now because I too contemplate these things in the shower before bed as I'm driving.
I do those contemplations while I'm sitting down on the pot.
Yes, that's another great place. I counsel and encourage not longer than a 30-minute session on the pot, just
Okay, good.
for health reasons.
Right.
Here's my now follow-up question. I don't know how many energy healing sessions I've done. I know how many have been done on me, I think, because I paid for them. You kind of remember that sort of thing. But on those that I've done on others, I'm not sure, but I've seen a consistent theme, which is in the moment that they're laying on the table and we've just done the energy work, their body, both spiritual and physical, is totally new. It's like they're in the quantum realm, as we call it, and they have the chance to like start fresh, like a baby just being born. You don't have to return to your marriage. You don't have to return to the habits you've been doing. You don't have to leave your marriage either. Like you don't have to do what you thought you had to do before you laid down for that session. In other words, like clean slate. But usually only like 2% of the healing session sticks. They might make a tiny like 2% adjustment, but 98% they go back to their previous habits before. And it's interesting because they went from clean slate to return right back to where they were. And I'm wondering, I don't know if it's such a matter of courage, because it takes a lot of courage to seek healing. You're saying consciously, I want a new beginning, but it's like there's this resistance that goes deeper than just their character. I know that it's very easy to say like, oh, weakness, it's a character flaw. Like they're weak, they don't have the courage, because I've thought it too. But I don't know if it's weakness. I suspect, and I wonder, and I'd like to hear your perspective, if there's a quality of mindfulness that's missing. What I've noticed in people who pretty much return back to their own lives immediately after a healing session with little to no change in their patterns and behaviors is that on the day-to-day, they're not practicing any kind of mindfulness. They don't create pattern interruptions in their own life by choice every day. Whereas individuals who do sit down, for example, to meditate or sit down to think, as you're discussing, or they sit down to self-analyze their own behavior and patterns, when those people are presented with the opportunity to shift, you see like a 50% change, a 70% change. They do something radical and you're like, oh, this is exactly what we dreamed of. They are ready where others are not. So I'm wondering, like, A, do you have any experience with that personally? And B, do you agree or disagree that weakness is a character flaw or it speaks to a lifestyle?
Should I go first?
When you were saying that, I imagined a cat. A cat, let's say a lazy cat, laying down all day, right? They're comfortable. There's no need for them to do anything different. The second you throw them in the bathtub, now they become alive and they jump like 9 feet high. Mm-hmm. I think people, I don't think, courage, maybe not a good word. If people are comfortable, they're not, it has to be inside of you to do something different. For most people, if they're comfortable, yes, they'll talk about it, but I don't think they'll take action. So as long as, you're comfortable at your job, you're not going to send out resumes. If you're comfortable in your relationship, you're not going to think about other women. How am I going to end this one? I think you're right. Courage, maybe not the right word. It's once you're comfortable with something, you live with it. Once you're not comfortable with something and you've made a conscious decision to change, then you will look for doors like that. And you have to have discipline to follow through.
I think pattern interruptions that you said.
Yeah.
I think that gets people more ready to make changes because, as he said, if that pattern continues and you're comfortable, there's nothing that shakes the status quo, then you don't have to seek anything outside yourself, because everything is just, it is what it is, right? For me, it takes courage to do that. I think courage is the opposite of weakness. In my opinion, it's not strength, it's courage, because courage for me means you have to have not just the power to move forward with something that is unknown, but something that goes against everything that makes you comfortable. And I think to me, courage means trusting that the next step you take, even if it's in a foggy, dark forest, you know that the next step you put forward is going to land somewhere solid. And you just have to trust that the next one after that, and the next one after that, and the next one after. And yeah, if a tree comes closer, you just turn a little bit and then you just continue going until you're out of the forest. And I think it takes pattern interruptions in your life to get to that point that courage means more to you than being safe. Like, I'd rather move in the dark, in a foggy forest, and fall off a cliff trying to get further in life than sit still on the same rock in the same area with the same people, with the same everything until I die. So for me, pattern interruption is when I was divorced from. Like, I didn't really want to get divorced, but the divorce came to me and I had to say yes. That was the first pattern interruption of my life. So if I have to change that trajectory, why not change other pieces of my life while I'm at it? Because if I'm trying to reconfigure that Rubik's Cube that you play with all the time, if you mess it up a little bit, you might just mess it up the whole lot and then put it back together. And it's much more gratifying to put it back together the way you feel versus to have life do this and that to you. So for me, courage is a number one thing. That's why I want to go get this removed. I would never want to go under the knife if my life didn't depend on it. But I want to do this because I want to show myself that it takes courage to do something so that it interrupts my pattern of thinking and being.
Yeah, I love that. So now in our final closing thoughts, can you tell me, and for myself and for the people listening and watching, what pattern interrupts can we do on a daily basis to prepare ourselves for moments that will come to us from life, opportunities? They say crisis equals opportunity if you're in the right mindset. It doesn't mean your whole life has to fall apart. It can be an opportunity for a level up. But what little ways can we prepare ourselves for when those moments come so that we can make them opportunities for improvement rather than like fall into the pit of, why me? What have I done?
So I think. Yeah. I think.
You sing, I thought you said.
I think when something crosses my mind, I need to take action on it right then and there.
That's what Kevin always says.
Yeah. Let's say I'm sitting down, I'm like, man, I should drink more water. Get out of your ass, go get a gallon of water and just chug it down.
Oh.
Right? If you feel like, oh, my hair is, falling off.
Yeah.
Man, I wish there was a pill that would reverse. Pick up the phone, call the doctor, say, I want to get hair grafts.
Give me the pill.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right? I think we just sit down, our thoughts come to us, some of them are life-changing. Or like, I'm going to call this woman, for example. I'm like, well, let me play a game. Let her call me first. And then that becomes like a pattern that it's just like everyone else's pattern. Everyone just puts it off and puts it off and puts it off. So for me, I think if something crosses my mind, I want to take action on it.
Immediate action.
Whether I'm in the middle of a meeting or in the middle of a project or in the middle of lunch, if it comes to my head that I need to do something, I have to get up and just do it. Otherwise, it's not going to be a pattern interruption. It's just going to be, okay, well, I'm just going to schedule for next Wednesday at 2:00. I'll go do this. No.
That's what I was thinking. I've had this notepad and I'll grab it for the camera to see. Since like late 2021. And this was originally supposed to be my inspiration notepad. And I said, I'm going to write down anything that comes to me. And I did for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
But I've renamed it the place where my ideas go to die because I have not taken action on more than 1% of what I've written in this notebook.
Wow.
So I think what you're saying for me resonates because it's like, okay, don't just take the action to write it down. I mean, that's the step one, but then do something with it.
Yeah.
Like maybe draft the screenplay or, you know, maybe call the person or mail the letter, whatever, because there's so many things in there.
Yeah.
What about you, Kevin?
I believe we take too many notes, like you said, and we don't do them. Yeah. To his point, if I go to a doctor and the doctor says, hey, I got to zap this thing in your eye, which I recently had done, I just say do it. Even though he says you're going to go blind, maybe. But if you don't do it, you're going to also go blind. So I'm like, just do it. I don't think about it. I don't let it sit with me for a couple of years. And then I've learned that when you don't take action, you regret. I prepare like every day. I think being a business owner, somebody calls, I want to cancel. That's prepared me for dealing with things like this. Like the first few times it was horrible. Like, oh my God, this person's canceling on me. How am I going to live, survive? But once you start going through these things more and more, you get used to them. So that's, I think your question was, how do we prepare for these things? I think either you wait experience to catch up with you and then you can deal with it, or you put yourself in tough positions where it is easier to deal with it. Like I remember when we wanted to go ask chicks out before there was this thing called the internets.
Oh, there was a time before the internet?
Yeah. We would walk in the mall, and if we wanted to go ask a girl out, other friends would be like, okay, now we know where she works. Tuesdays at 5. We'll be back next Tuesday. I say, no, let me just go in there right now and just do it. Because I don't want it to build up and become bigger than it is.
Yep. Oh.
So yeah, you either, let experience prepare you, or you just do it, put yourself in uncomfortable positions so that then you're proud of yourself.
But you also have to create experiences for yourself.
That's what I said.
Yeah. But you got to create also like experiences not out of need. Like I need to date this girl, therefore I need to get this eye thing done sooner or later. I'll just do it now. Also put yourself in positions that you would never imagine being in. Like, oh, I'm going to call this guy and I'm going to set myself up for a bungee jump on Tuesday. Right?
Or maybe I'm going to take a trip across the world by myself.
Which you've done.
Which I have done.
Yeah.
Yes. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to be uncomfortable, because this was my world. And one day I thought to myself, what if I lose my brother, my mom, my dad, my everything? Who am I going to be? Like some shriveled shrimp crying until I die too. And then I realized, you know what? If I see bigger, if I put myself in a position that I normally would never put myself into, maybe it's going to be good for me. I did that twice by myself. Yeah. One time it was after 9/11. I don't know if you were born then, but
it was barely.
It was a few months after, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to go to Vegas by myself, because I was going to meet my, not wife then, but it was a girlfriend back then. I was going to go there. Even though I was uncomfortable getting on an airplane, I told myself I have to. Then I'll be looking back and be proud of what I did. And that's going to build me for the next journeys in my life. Not just necessarily travel, but anything else. Put myself in a position that I wouldn't normally put myself into. So, yeah, no, I mean, I agree. You put yourself in difficult positions, sometimes out of necessity, but sometimes out of, you know what, I need to do this for me because, it's going to make me something.
So you say, take immediate action. You say, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And I say, meditate. I'd say that's the triple shot strategy to overcome any unexpected obstacles that life may throw you. Meditation is a difficult position to put yourself in because it's uncomfortable, as we know. We meditate in this office. So, yeah, it's all about choosing different for yourself. Triple Shot Mindset.